All right. Thank you very much for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 47. I'm your host, Greg Gao. Not that you don't know that already, but we have Luff and John and Gio and Wayne and Big Dan and Garth, Steve, Lance, Alan, Mike, Dennis, and more. So let's get the party started. Does anybody have any show and tell they want to show and tell about? I'm looking at faces and I don't see any hands.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a couple things here. Let me go ahead and share. Let's see. What do I want to share? Camera. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So this is my newest addition. This is a Fly 911 Gt1 Evo 2R. I think this car was brand new in the box. I think this car came out in the early 2000s.
You're breaking up.
And I guess at the time, is that better? I guess at the time, this was Fly's pinnacle. So I thought I would go ahead and give it a try. And why this is interesting for me, and maybe not so much for you guys, is going in, I knew that this car did not have a magnet. No magnet in this car,
Okay.
which, as some of you may know, I am pretty much a mag racer. So this is the first non-magnetic car I've ever owned, purposely. When I first got it, put it on the track, 9 volts, it would go nowhere. The tires on it were horrible. So I ended up doing rub some 3-in-1 oil on them, let them soak overnight. Quite well. I was surprised with how little I did to it. It's a good car, especially for the price. A little odd. The body actually glows in the dark. It looks kind of white here, but it's got more of a greenish cast to it in reality. So, kind of neat. But I figured it came with all aluminum wheels, front and rear, a decent motor and the gear set. So I figured even if I didn't like it, good parts for something I could 3D print, and I can always paint it. So, and I ended up with 2 of them because he sent me 2 by mistake. So,
well, you can't complain about that.
Well, what happened was I paid for UPS shipping, and if anybody's ever watched Pro Tinker Toys, they do a live stream all day during work. I literally watched him fill my order, and when he sent the email, he sent it USPS. So I immediately typed back in. I said, "Hey, Brian, I paid for UPS shipping, so please either ship it, change it over to UPS, or give me my $4 back." And I literally, he read my email out, or my message out loud. He goes, "Oh, he wants it by UPS. Okay, I can change that." Sure enough, 10 seconds later, I get an email. We've changed it to UPS. You're good to go. Car shows up by a USPS. So he changed it to UPS, but he didn't cancel the USPS order apparently, and they shipped me a second one. I've gone ahead and reached out to him, and we'll take care of that. Fair's fair. He's a good guy.
Knowing Brian, he'll just say, "Keep it. Don't worry about it."
Probably. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these.
I've got a few.
This is the Scale Electrics LMP Start Series. And I bought a couple of these. One of them ran quite well out of the box. The other one was a piece of crap. This happened to be the one. I had to do some major surgery up front. I used one of Greg's Fix-It to change the guide. You can see the tires were so tall, you can see how far off the ground it was. Runs quite well, but I bought 2. I bought the yellow one and the blue one. Well, I've also recently started, because we're doing some 3D printing. I got back into doing a little bit of airbrushing. And now, while I don't have the skills of John or, say, Chris or Dennis, this is what I turned the other one into so far. So, a little bit of paint work on my part.
That turned out really nicely.
It looks nice.
I did the chrome on the wheels. This is a coating called All Clad. which that's literally airbrushed on. And this color is not pure chrome, it's what they call airframe aluminum. So again, not a fabulous paint job, but a good start, I thought. And it certainly, in my opinion, is a little more attractive.
You cannot go wrong with blue and silver, as you'll see when I get to my show and tell.
Yeah, and actually that blue is lighter if it's shot over white. Over it, I could have left it lighter, but as I continued to layer it on, it got a little deeper. And yeah, Dennis, I agree with you. It's hard to go wrong with blue and silver. And be honest with you, this paint is this extreme sheen. This is actually Deco Art. It was on sale for $2 a bottle. This is the blue, the silver. I bought a green, and I bought a red.
That was like British racing green almost.
And
Yep.
you cut it 50-50 with windshield washer fluid, and it sprayed beautiful.
Yeah.
So there are more than one chassis types underneath those body shells I've discovered. Or those are
yeah?
your samples.
Yeah, so in this, there's the green.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
Nice.
nice. Those are really nice colors.
And for $3 a bottle, then you double it when you cut it 50-50 with washer fluid.
That's Aston Martin's new Formula One car color, that is.
I was going to say, yeah, look, that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
And there's that red over a black base, as opposed to over
That looks sharp.
same colors over two different bases.
I like it
Very
over
good.
black. That looks really good.
I really like the idea of using plastic spoons that way.
Yeah, well, that's again, that's what paint companies do, right? They use sort of like a shape like that so you can see what a color will look like with different shapes. And spoons are perfect.
Yeah, and I get 50 of them for $1. So
I
We
normally
just said
I normally stick mine in my ice cream and snap it straight away.
I've been seeing lots of colors.
Do that before you paint it, Wayne.
Yeah. It actually makes a plastic spoon a useful thing as opposed to the alternative.
Yeah.
Well, also, Brian, good on you for making notes on the other side. That's a great idea.
Oops.
Yeah. And this is what I used on the rims. This is all clad. It's a lacquer. It's called airframe aluminum, and you spray it over a black base.
That
And
that almost looks like a Molotov. That turned out really nicely.
It's similar. Allclad makes several different versions. They have all kinds of metals. They're a fabulous company.
So
their products.
We've
And
used
they're
Alclad
reasonable.
paints on Lexan body shells in the past, and I think it's a flexible paint, if I'm not mistaken. Have you tried?
so
have
you
you
say
tried-
it has a lot of flex agent in it? then?
Yeah, have you tried bending a spoon to see whether or not it cracks?
Wow,
There you go.
nice. So that'll stand up really well to racing then.
That's also got a water-based clear over the top of it.
Let's see
that's
you
good.
and Yellow do that.
I've got to say the Alclad bottle's changed, but I'm talking probably 15 to 20 years ago, the last time I used any Alclad.
Wow.
And here's what that red looks like shot over that Allclad, that aluminum.
Oh, so you almost got like a candy going there a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a metallic color to begin with. But if you shoot it over white bare plastic, it looks like that. You shoot it over a black base, it looks like that.
Which black base did you use?
Allclad has a black primer. This stuff shoots beautifully, and it is some of the shiniest black I've ever seen right out of the tube. This is what that blue looks like shot over the black versus what you can see on the car over silver.
That's not, and that's, and the black makes a real difference. It really just punches up the color, doesn't it?
That's
Oh,
the black right out of the bottle.
I don't know if basically is it the same black base that I use from Alclad, but basically I know that there is one base that is a black one that you use for metallic color,
Yes,
that
that's what I'm using.
peels off pretty easily. So be careful. Maybe it's not this one, that the one that I have.
And then for their metals, they recommend this. This is the only water-based product they make. It's called Aqua Gloss. Trying to get it so you can see it. This shoots very similar. The one guy who reviewed it said he thought it was very similar to the Future, but you can see it's milky, so I'm sure it's got some other additives in it. You don't shake it. So
You don't shake it, Brian?
nope, it says right on it, do not shake.
Wow, because it looks like it's settling out. That's amazing.
I got one last question for you guys. Can anybody tell me what color this is?
Yeah,
Shit.
baby
Yeah, I
poo.
was gonna say it looks kind of brown. Yeah.
Yeah, baby shit brown would be right. You know what? Let me show you what color that's supposed to be.
Can't,
Oh,
Really?
orange?
Those are the same two colors.
so the first one is a carrot and the second, no, sorry, the other way around. So the second one is a carrot and the first one is the one that you get afterwards.
Exactly.
Yes, as it goes in
Before
and
you
as
eat
it comes out.
this as you get it. The difference here is this is shot over a white spoon.
And this one's
This
over
one's shot
black.
over gray
Oh.
primer,
Oh, is it?
Wow.
Wow, just great.
just gray. Just good old basic.
Rattle can grey.
And I was stunned. I love that color. You know, it's one of my McLaren. If you're a McLaren fan, you almost have to like that color.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not orange enough for it's not yellow
no,
enough for McLaren.
It's close. I can dress it up, add a little yellow to it, but it's the closest I could find in these wicked colors.
Yeah,
This is a different brand.
That'd be great.
I-
That'd be great for Oscar Kovaleski's McLaren,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the '54 car.
but I was absolutely stunned when I got this shooting it over
Wow.
gray primer.
Mm.
Well, that's the color. They did a Ferrari Gto in that color with a white roof,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the Targa Florio car.
That's right. Yeah. Or Turd Florio. Yeah.
So those IndyCar chassis, I really like those. Those are not, very inexpensive and they're excellent to become a one car category.
Nice and cheap.
Very, very cheap.
Yeah, they're $29, I think, around here. You can get them as little as 25. All right.
Very
well,
resistant. And that wing sits on a little piece that's actually mounted to the chassis and it pops off really well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the click in. So it doesn't snap wings.
Nope. And the blue one out of the box ran pretty good. The yellow one was horrific, and I'm not sure why, but it was absolutely horrific. You can see.
Well, there are two chassis underneath those body shells, and in one case you can loosen the screws and immediately get body float, and in the other case the body shell actually pushes down into some cups, and those cups prevent it from rattling around, and you can just grind the tops off the cups and convert one chassis to look almost the same as the other.
They've got the same number on them, so these two are the same. But all right, well, that's all I had.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
sir, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Glad to.
And when I get into my attic, Brian, I'm going to show you my Fly 911 98s. I've got a couple of those, very different to one another.
Yeah, I bet they made some changes along the way.
But by the way, their axles are not, they're 332, but they're not 2.38 or 2.37. They're 2.4.
No.
Well, Dennis teased a show and tell. Do you want to go ahead, Dennis?
Yeah, let's have a look, see. Hang on, I'm working on my phone today, not my, because I don't have a computer. So there's
nice
this.
MG on the background.
Oh yeah, I'll get to the AMG in a minute, but this is the Polycar March, the Team Gunston one, this which is the one without the side pans on, the way that John Love used to drive it in some of the shorter events. shorter events in South Africa. And
Is it a new release, Dennis?
it's a brand new release. Yeah, very, very nice little car. Works great. Has just the same kind of performance as most of the other polycar Formula Ones. It's, you know, it shares the newer chassis which they made after the first batch of March 701s. They produced a second chassis where the guide was pushed further forward in the car to take advantage of the longer nose and to get the performance up to something similar to the Lotus 72s. But yeah, it runs with the Lotuses or with the Ferrari 312 B2. Very, very nice car, beautifully done as always, you know, with really, really nice detail at the back. Other than that, you know, not a lot different to a regular polycar offering from them. Fortunately, the same wheels as all the other Marches, so it takes the same tire. You know,
Did
on
you
the
change the
Lotuses,
tires?
yeah, I
rear
changed the
ones?
tires. I changed the tires out straight away because on my circuit I use slotted rubber N22s or F22s. So this has got a I think it's a 1219 F22 on the back, and I put the aluminum wheels on it straight away. But what I do that other people don't, and Giovanni, you probably don't know this, I machine a groove in the middle of the wheel so that they look like an air system wheel, and I fill that, and I put a ring of foam rubber in there, and then I glue the tire on over the top of the foam.
Do you make that ring of foam rubber from a full tire?
What I do is I buy, you know, because I run a lot of 124 scale cars. So when the tires get too small for what I'm doing in 124th, I soak them off. I soak them off the rims, and then I slice up those donuts. Once they're dry, I slice them up into 4 millimeter or 4.5 millimeter wide slices, and I use that.
And does that mean you have to snip through it and snip some off of it and shut it?
You just stretch it over.
Oh, it needs to be stretched, does it?
It stretches over and then pops into the air gap as a ring, right? Just
because I
like
haven't found a way to make a donut like that without actually using a brand new donut, a brand new tire, which wastes a lot of foam.
Oh, hell yes. No, that's what I do. What I do, Wayne, is I put the, oh man, seeing as I'm in my garage, I can actually show you. Excuse me, just let me get a donut.
Yeah, that's exactly like mine. Yeah, that's exactly the way I've done it from a full donut, which is just
Yeah, Dunderslot does these kind of foam inserts.
And what's his name? Ernie Mazzetti is making them too now.
I think we're going to see a lot more over the coming months.
Yeah, if you want to get back to me, what I'm doing here. Yeah, excuse all the mess, but I've been busy with other things. So I have where is it? There it is. I have in my collection this little piece, which is basically an old X-Acto knife held in the tool post, right? So it's got the X-Acto knife blade up front, and then into the chuck, I will put a little mandrel that I have that's made out of, believe it or not, just a piece of aluminum, right? And then I slide this. This is a tire that's been soaked off of a 124 scale car, right? And I'll just slide it on there, and there's just enough friction to hold it there.
Turn on master bedroom.
And then I'll set the heads the carriage where I want it, and then I'll lock the carriage in place, and then I'll use the carriage feed, which does 1 millimeter per turn, right? So I'll start that, and I'll actually feed the
Blade across. You'll face the
I'll
material.
just hang on.
And then part it.
Right. So I'll turn this on, and then I'll just feed that in. And there it comes. So I'll cut that piece off, feed it back, then I'll feed it 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeters, and I'll feed it back in again.
And boom, one insert.
And boom, one insert.
Nice,
right.
Dennis. Here's my address.
Well, no, I'm happy. Send it to me. I make them all the time. I sell them to all sorts of people around here, and I'll send you some.
Well, that actually, considering it's a waist tire from a 124, it actually still looks like it's got quite a lot of diameter left.
Oh, that particular one has. I don't always leave them as far as I don't always soak them off at that point. I just at the moment have way too many tires of the smaller sizes, and
So
I'm not doing. I do a lot of retro racing where the tires are 13/16 to 790 size in inches. I'm trying to remember what that is in millimeters. But then my flexi cars that I run, they are much smaller, but I have so many tires at the moment that I just had a bunch of these that were too small for retro, and I don't need them for the other ones. So I just soak them off. So yeah, I put them on and then turn. You put that into the air gap of the rim, as Chris was showing, and turn it down until it stands about 10 thousandths per hour. And then what I do is I'll actually put the tire onto an unmodified wheel or onto a mandrel that I have that looks like an unmodified wheel, and I'll do the initial truing of the tire on an unmodified wheel. And then once it's basically true, before I polish it, I will put it onto the wheel that has the foam in it, and then glue it down, and that allows for a very slight crown in the middle of the tire. The problem is if you try to grind them with the foam underneath them, you eventually end up with a concave surface because the center of the tire is softer. It doesn't have the support against the grind wheel. And so it's actually much better for traction to have this very slight, and on the car you could actually see it. It has a very, very slight crown in the middle of the tire. And it works great.
So that X-Acto knife that you sort of did you make that yourself?
No, the big X-Acto knife number, whatever it is, I don't remember. It's not the little number 11 that we normally use.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's just a thicker one. It's about a 1/2 inch diameter, and I had a spare one, and so I just bolted it into the tool carrier. There is actually for a boring bar. So I just locked it in there, and then you just line the blade up and bang, 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 bang.
So basically, it's like doing prosciutto, right? So like you do.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess
so
you have those in a variety of different foam types too.
I could, yeah. I mean, I use 2 or 3 different foams. So yes, I could have them in a number of different hardnesses. I generally use fairly soft stuff with 1/32 scale cars, and for the rubber
I
tires,
actually didn't even last half an hour in the other position over there with my foot on the bucket.
I don't know what that was all about.
I think Ray needs to mute.
Yeah, I think he
Well,
has now.
Get to mute their microphone and then they talk to other people.
Yeah.
So,
So
Dennis, any special story behind this car?
which one? The Gunston car?
Yeah. So did you get to buy it being, from Electric Dreams or?
It's that rare beast, one for himself.
It's no. This is a rare beast because it is for me, and
Okay.
so it's just a Electric Dreams have them in stock, and because I work there, I get the chance to spend some of my earnings in the store. And of course, being a South African originally, I actually saw this car run. So, it was eventually damaged in some or other crash, and I seem to remember it burned. But there's an interesting story about John Love. I think it was after this car, after the March 701, the next car that he bought was a Surtees TS11, I think. May have been a 7, but I think not. I think it was a TS11 that he bought off John Surtees. And he was racing that car, and it happened to be the very first race in which he had ever worn a full face helmet. And halfway through the race, the throttle stuck wide open, and he slammed the car into the Armco barriers at Clubhouse Corner at Kyalami, which is the slowest corner on the track. He just couldn't hold it. The throttle stuck open, and he slammed the car, and the car actually inserted its nose right through the 2 layers of Armco barrier, and came to rest with his head pressed up against the roll bar, trapped between the roll bar of the car and the Armco. And if he had not had a full face helmet on, I think he may not have survived. As it was, he just got out the car, and when they pulled it out of there, but that wasn't this car, that was the next one. Anyway, so that was mine. That was one of mine. I have another little show and tell if you want to see it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dennis, does that happen to be the car you did on the Electric Dreams unboxing?
No, the Electric Dreams, well, the latest Electric Dreams unboxing I did was that Bugatti, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Just let's show you this one. This is a Nono slot Abarth, yeah.
That's got the very clever chassis underneath it, is it?
It's a very nice. Well, I've already taped this one, but it's a very similar chassis to
Thunderslot.
To a Thunderslot, yes, and it runs very, very nicely. The original tires are not much good. I put some sideways 22 Shores on here, again with foam inside them, and that works well. And I bought the white kit and did my own color scheme, which is why, Brian, I was saying that you can't go wrong with blue and silver, because
He's a real.
that's my color scheme, but always with a little bit of pink in it. I like to just change it up a little bit.
It's nice.
Thank
So
you.
it's not a real car liver, right? So
No, it's
No,
one of my liveries.
It is now.
It's kind of a real car livery, because if you look at some of the early Abarth like this, they had those stripes, those blocks along the side, but no, it's not a real car livery.
Is
That looks really good, really good.
Thank
Is
you.
that something you found secondhand around? Can you buy that new now? I don't think you can you?
Yes, yeah, we just got them into stock in Electric Dreams just a week or so back,
Okay.
or 2 weeks back.
I think they are new release from Nono slot.
And it's slotted mechanicals and a slotted 23K motor in it, so it works really well. It's
And
very
the
nice.
body is a Lexan.
No, the body is hard
Resin?
plastic.
Oh,
It's
hard
plastic.
plastic.
Yeah, it's plastic. It's very much like a Thunderslot or a slotted. It runs, to my mind, it runs just like a slotted Alpha T33. It's a very
And
nice
in
little
terms
car.
of cost, a white kit, how much is it?
Around $60 US as far as I recall.
Okay.
Is it a little on the short side?
Yeah, it is quite short. Yeah, it's quite short. Yeah. What is that?
they were short cars, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a hill climb car, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like 72 millimeters, right? So it's pretty short.
You have to be careful of all the new releases, Dennis, or you'll have to start paying them.
I get a bit beyond that. Giovanni was looking at the AMG that's in
Yeah,
the background.
but
Yeah.
I have to go. I have another meeting. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
NSR, right?
No, this is Tamiya 124 scale.
Oh. Now, what chassis are you putting under it, then?
The chassis in the tumbler right now. There's one of my brass chassis going underneath it.
Nice.
Uh,
Is it
for-
an inline or a sidewinder or?
Sidewinder. Well, like a 5-degree angle winder.
So are you guys starting the GT3 124?
We run some here and there. This car is being built for a friend of mine down in San Diego, and he just loves to paint bodies, and he paints some of the most amazing things. And then so he'll paint all these bodies, and then he'll send me the cars, and I have to put chassis underneath them. And some of them he hasn't run yet, and they're maybe a year old already. Because the problem is there's not a track down in San Diego. He has to come up here to Orange County.
I'm trying to get hold of one of those 124 Tamiya, and then I want to cut the front and the back and put the new, how's it called? The MG, they changed. They have a Evo 2 now, that car. So there is a new front grille and back of the the back of the diffuser. Is they are different now.
It looks a lot different now. Yeah.
And so, but there are people doing like either 3D printed or racing bits that you cut the body and put this stuff on. But I have to go, so I'll be back in half an hour-ish.
See you, Joe.
See you, people.
All right, so that's me for the day.
All done, Dennis? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Dennis, before I was wrong, it was the McLaren you had unboxed. I saw the Bugatti one. I did have a question about the buildings, though. The one you just did.
Oh, yes.
Are those die cut, or do you have to cut those pieces out?
No, you have to cut them out. It's just basically printed on card, and you have to cut them out. We thought they might be die cut, and we were going to actually do a bit of assembly on the video, and turned out they're not. So I'll probably. They're made by Innovative Hobbies, the same guys that make the gel claw tires. They're called Real Scale or something like that. I don't remember now. And it's a set of bleachers and a hot dog stand, but like real old school Midwest quarter-mile dirt oval kind of bleachers, right? With like old wooden finish seats and construction, and they're really quite quaint. Probably the best word for them.
Cool.
Yeah, Mossport just got rid of their old school hot dogs and hamburger, and that food used to go through faster than most of the cars on the track.
What were you saying, Brian?
I think Innovative was the brand name on those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the hot dog stand looked really neat, but man, when I saw you pulling out those bleacher sheets, I was like, man, if that stuff's not die cut, I could die of old age before I got all the pieces cut out.
Yeah, it was like 10 sheets of card in the pack.
And you've got to like get an X-Acto out for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, it was a lot of pieces. So you're making each piece individually.
Wow.
There were some very long straight pieces that looked like the seats, and then the backs of the seat.
Yep.
But it was
That's
all like
exactly
nicely
right.
printed in full color and stuff, so it looked like.
Oh yeah, it's very nicely done. And I think probably with a bit of attention and work, it'll probably make a very nice little addition to somebody's track. You know.
I mean, get a cry-cut machine or Cricut or however you pronounce it. And, you know, tell these people to, hey, go ahead and put out some Cricut templates so that you can so that we can your Cricut, and then everybody in the neighborhood, one guy has a Cricut, and everybody in the neighborhood brings their
sheets along.
Here, cut my,
it'll take a bit of time.
That's one of the things I like about the magnetic racing, the laser cut thin wood models. You basically they're all, you just get a box full of pieces and you just glue them together. You still got to paint them, but you don't have to cut them out, which is nice.
No, it looks like it quite fun, and but man, that Le Mans Miniatures Bugatti Type 59 is a gorgeous little piece of work. That was there's quite an interesting story about that video. The cut that you saw, the take that you saw, was I think take 3, because there was noise in the background over and over. And Marco, who's the guy, the owner, the manager at the show at Electric Dreams, he's the director, so he's busy with it all. And Kristen in the back is packing, because she's packing orders, you know, because I mean it's a business after all. And that place has been super busy, and so we had to do 3 takes, and I was supposed to be surprised by what was inside there. So it took a bit of work. So when you see that, oh, it was really, you know, my best.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, all I can say is good luck getting your SAG card.
Yeah.
Don't quit
Yeah,
your what you're saying.
I'm not about to get a Screen Actors deal or an Oscar for that one, I'm afraid.
I'll tell you what, though, I do enjoy your videos, though. They're short, they're sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
I think they're very well done, and I look forward to the next ones.
Great.
Yeah, no,
Well,
they're great.
Great.
They're
Thanks.
really good.
I must admit, most of them are done in a single take, and I just basically I look at the camera as though it was somebody, or I look at Lucas, who's the guy sitting behind the camera, and I talk to him, and that's how it comes across.
Is there an Electric Dreams YouTube channel, or is the best place to just to go to electricdreams.com?
No, they have a YouTube channel, so you could see them on there.
Okay, cool. I'll look
we've done quite a few by now.
I'm surprised I haven't come across them already.
My wife loves to laugh at them. She laughs at me and my accent. Yeah, and all I do when I look at them is I see this old fart sitting there, talking about little cars. You know,
are we all?
I suppose we're all our own greatest critics. But
oh yeah, my wife hates it when she's on video for her work.
Yeah. Anyway, but
awesome.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that, and I'm glad they helped. I'm going to try and get into a little bit more technical stuff later on, but Marco wanted to really start all of those with with real simple stuff.
I've got some videos to go watch apparently. Good deal. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, talking about videos though, your SCP video was really good. Thank you. That was nice. I enjoyed that.
And of course, when I watch it, all I think is, oh, geez, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said this, or whatever.
I thought that you did a great job. I listen to a lot of these videos, and like some, and we will leave the names. We won't start naming names. Some of them drive me nuts because of all the ums. This, 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 this. And it, that drives me crazy. That says to me that the guy hasn't really thought about what he's going to say. But yours was great. It flowed very well, and you sounded like
sounded like I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, like one of my customers said to me one time, I don't know whether you know what you're talking about, but you sure as hell sound like you know what you're talking about.
Hey, Greg, if it's any consolation, I even suffered through your 1 mile challenge video.
You watched the whole thing in real time?
I watched the whole thing in real time. And I'm curious about your car. That ran very smooth. If that's magless, that to me, that was terrific. A nice piece of driving.
And more than that, that's magless on Scalextric Sport, one of the slipperiest plastic tracks.
Wow.
So now we're on that topic. So I'll go ahead and talk about my 1 mile challenge video, which subscribers to this series have probably already seen. But there is a thing called 1 mile challenge. We talked about this before, but I'll just kind of go over it real quick. 1 mile challenge started on the Slot Forum International, slotforum.com website, and as a pandemic, something to do, right? And so the basics are figure out the length of your track, one slot, so you're not changing lanes and making it different lengths, and then divide that length into 1 mile, not a kilometer, 1 mile, and then how many laps you have to do to achieve 1 mile, and then challenge yourself to get the best possible 1 mile time with whatever car. And they've got a whole database thing going on, and they've got a Google form that you fill out, so you don't have to try to figure out a spreadsheet. You know, you just answer questions and put in your information. They're tabulating non-magnet 1 mile attempts and magnet 1 mile attempts, and they classify. There's some basic types of car, you know, LMP versus GT versus whatever. You know, magnet, no magnet, you know, what kind of tires, you know, what kind of car, all this information, how many volts, you know, analog or digital, lots of information. So if you're a data nerd, you'll geek out like crazy on the 1 mile challenge database if you just want to go look at people's attempts and stuff. And of course, the
wood truck, does it?
What was that, Luff?
It doesn't work for a wood truck.
Why not?
Don't they have formulas figured out for all the pieces of a plastic truck?
There is an optional track difficulty rating, but you don't have, that's optional. You don't have to put that in there. It just kind of helps split the data up so that, you know, if somebody's got a really easy track, they're not, you know, getting better ranking than somebody with a really technical track. But
Yeah,
if you were to do the attempt and fill out the form, you can skip that step that asks you for what your difficulty rating is, and it'll
Okay.
just go by.
Because my truck's fairly easy. It's 56 laps, and I'm doing about 8 minutes flat.
Well, then your track is easy.
Time
Go
to
on,
build a
Greg.
new one.
Tell us how much slower you were.
So on my highly technical track, it took me 11 and a half minutes, I think it was 26.91 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was, I was driving conservatively in order to not crash, because crashing takes longer than going slower. My track is 56 feet. I think I don't know, 55 feet, which gives me an exact 96 laps on when I race the outside lane. And I was driving a slotted classic DTM Opel Calibra with no magnets, and I believe the tires were N22 or N18, I forget which. It was the car was chipped with an oXigen Type C chip, and I was driving it with a slotted SCP3 oXigen wireless controller. However, I was using analog lap timing because the way that my track works, I can see my lap times as I tick them off. So that was just the easiest way to do it. And yeah, it took me 11 and a half minutes, 11 minutes, 26 seconds, and 91 hundredths of a second to
It's
do
fun
that.
to do.
What was that, Luff?
Greg?
It's fun.
It's fun, yeah. And speaking of the time that it took, actually one of the comments on the video itself on YouTube was it seemed as if something changed about the car at like 9.5 minutes in. And I went and I watched, you know, I scrolled to that point in the video and I listened and I watched and I couldn't see anything. And my response was, I think it's probably because I moved. And so like I'm standing basically right here in between these two driver stations. And I don't ever do that many laps in one go. And so I had to shift my weight more, and I had to step, you know, I was like standing in one place, so I would step over and I would step back, or, you know, I would moving around just to kind of keep my body moving. And that's the only thing I could think of, is that because I was driving conservatively pretty much from the get-go, because I did not want to come off. I just wanted to get the 96 laps in one go and see what my time was. This was only my second attempt. The first one I crashed all over the place because I was actually trying to go fast. So this time I'm like, okay, just stay on.
Yeah.
But I had to move around a bunch. So that's the only thing I could think of, is that because my body moved, the camera is like above my head. Because my body moved relative to the camera, it caused the reflection of sound to bounce around differently and enter the microphone of the camera in a different way. Because otherwise I was not changing the way I was driving. The only other thing I could think of was that at that point, I started to actually worry because I couldn't see a lap count. I could only see my lap times as they clocked in. I couldn't see the number of laps I had clocked. So I was starting to worry whether or not it was counting properly and maybe I had already surpassed the 96 laps. So I'm like, you know, I could be like at 150 laps right now and I'm just racing for no good reason. But just keep pushing through, Greg, keep pushing through. And then that 96 rolled, that I started to hear the beep, you know, the last lap beep my timer makes, and then the you got your laps in beeps that it makes. And I'm like, oh, you can actually hear me sigh at the end of the 96 laps. I'm like, oh, okay.
Now, how many attempts did it take you?
Well, that was just, I basically just walked in there and I just did 96 laps. I didn't do multiple attempts. That's why I was driving so conservatively, because I didn't want to have to do, I wanted to just get 96 laps. And I'm like, get 96 laps.
So you're like Dennis, you did it in one take.
I did it in one take. I'm definitely a one take kind of guy, as you saw from my SCP video. I don't like to edit anymore, and I don't like to do multiple. In fact, that was the second take I did on SCP Basics, because the first one was off the cuff, even more off the cuff, for a friend of mine who was just needing some immediate help. And I'm like, okay, I'll just do a quick video. And it was super bad. I deleted it after he saw it. And after I uploaded the new one, I deleted the old video. But yeah, I hate editing. I used to love it. I hate it. Don't like it.
Greg, is your start finish line on the front straight? Is that where your lap times get counted?
Yep, right there.
I noticed a device in the corner in the very top of your picture right now on a timing tower.
Yep.
Was that showing you your elapsed lap time for each lap? Is that where you glance over to take a look?
Yeah, and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so I can't really read, but I do see that a new lap popped in. So it's so.
I also noticed red lights and green lights flashing on that tower, and I couldn't understand what they were going to show you. What was that about?
So what you were looking at, I forget what the actual name of it was, but it was basically a multi-number 7-segment LED display that was concocted by some of the Scalextric Digital inventors back in the day. I think it was called Lap Display, I think. So if you look on Slot Forum International in this
it's not a commercial product, is it? Yeah.
It was not a commercial product. It was a hobbyist product. And it was basically designed to interpret the output of the original Scalextric Digital 6-car base and put up lap timing information and lap counting information. So it actually has 6 rows, so it could display a lap time and a lap count for up to 6 cars for Scalextric Digital. But the base, modified by the hobbyists, has an analog mode as well. And so in analog mode, what it does is it basically, as soon as you cross the finish line, it detects your car and it says, okay, lane 1, and starts and puts your lap time in. And if no other cars cross in digital, or if the other analog lane isn't crossed, it basically fills the other lines of the display with your previous laps. So the top one is always your best lap time, and everyone after that is your previous 5 laps. So every time I made a new lap, the second line down would show me what that lap time was, and everything below that would move down. And if I got a new best lap, then that would appear on the top line. And so the green is basically the first column, which would be your car ID or your lap count, or no, actually just car ID, because I couldn't see my lap count. And then the other 4 red segments are your lap time.
I was actually referring to some rather large round lights that were atop.
Oh, okay. So right next to that is the pit lane game, which was also converted by hobbyists to Pit Pro, so that it would display various information things related to digital functionality. But it basically had a big red light and a big green light, and they just kind of flash on and off randomly to tell you whether or not it's okay. When it's got a green light, you're supposed to go through the pit lane to put a light out. And when it's got a red light, you're supposed to avoid the pit lane, because if you go through the pit lane, it turns a light on. So it's basically a lights out game for Scalextric Digital.
That's why it made no sense whilst I was watching the run.
Yeah, that one was nonsensical the whole time. So I answered 2 questions apparently, but you only asked 1.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Thanks
that
anyway.
pretty much everything on my track has been modified from original by hobbyists or by myself through guidance by the geniuses that do these kind of things. So yeah, it's still useful, right? So even though I wasn't doing Scalextric Digital for that attempt, I could still utilize those, improvements that were made for Scalextric Digital, because it also supported analog racing.
Mm.
Anybody else have any other questions before we move on to something more interesting? Okay, so do we have any other show and tells that we want to show and or tell or share? All right, Big Dan, go for it.
G'day, Greg. This is more of a tell and tell, and I'm just sort of with Wayne on. I was asking him if he ever had any success in getting his SCX guides to be a little bit less floppy.
Ah, yeah, good question.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, well, I was asking. We run an SCX NASCAR class down in Tassie here, and I asked the local guys if they modify their guides in any respect, and the answer I got was they shim them. Now, I found it hard to like to actually cut a shim and put it in between the, when the secondary bit that comes out that holds the guide. So what I actually did is I disassembled it, and on the top where that bit pivots around, I built up a layer of brush on super glue. So I actually created a shim out of super glue, and it does actually tighten it up and take the wobble out of it.
So you've done one and you've succeeded. I haven't gone that far with it yet.
Do you have brush on super glue over there? Yeah.
I've purchased some thicker. I've been using the ultra thin, the watery stuff, and it's just not building up quickly enough, because you put super glue on something and leave it to go hard, and you come back and it's like got a skin and it hasn't really gone hard, not yet. So it takes a long time, and I've bought some thicker glue. That is the one thing I have done.
Yeah, well, I use the special one take brush on super glue in the theme of today's meeting, the one take stuff.
You should get some of that UV curing glue that we talked about last time, Wayne.
Oh, that's really thick. That's like I haven't got any yet, but what I've seen of it is it's a little bit like using a hot glue gun, but it's like you're running the pull-off strings all the time. It doesn't come out as thick as a hot glue gun, but it looks like hot glue as far as it just sits on the surface. This is the UV glue, and Dennis demonstrated that with his light lenses. Yeah,
and he's nodding, he's agreeing. Interesting. I'll keep that in mind if I ever pick something up.
Anyway, fellas, I'm going to head off now. I've got that other commitment, so I'll catch you next week, and I'll catch the after intermission. I'll catch it on Catch Up TV. So see you later on.
Okay, all right,
thanks, then.
Catch you later.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I could tell a story.
Go for it, Wayne.
Go back to 2016 and how I got introduced to in a time warp. I hope you can see my screen. Yes. So this is 17, but in 2016 I was on Facebook on a Saturday evening, and a friend of mine from the RC car racing fraternity put a post on there that said he was on his way to the Disco Le Mans 24-hour race.
Excuse me, Wayne, sorry to interrupt, but is that John standing there by the corner?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
That's John. He's on the chat right now. You might see
sorry to interrupt, but I went, wow, I can't miss him.
Yeah. You'll see a couple more familiar faces potentially. That's Gary Skip. That's my brother. He's been on the chat before. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I went down to the 2016 event, and I sat there as it went dark. And whilst I was down there, the cars were all running, and I was only able to look at what was in people's pit boxes, but I was quite impressed by the progression of 132 slot cars since I was a child. Let's put it like that. So I contacted Gary Skip nearly, well, I'm going to say 8 or 10 months later. And I said to him, is there a team that needs a driver for your 2017 running of this race? And he said, yes, there is. There's a guy called John Granger, who's got a missing team driver at the moment. I think you should contact John. I'll put you in touch with John. So he did that. And John invited me to go to this race meeting, which is at Rockingham. And this was a Ninko track, GT3 class. And this was my first go at digital slot car racing. And we're in a 90-minute endurance race, or we're actually going to run 2 of those end to end. And the cars are on the grid here, ready to start that race.
Yeah.
So John invited me to go here, essentially to find out whether or not I was a good enough driver, particularly in digital, to join his team. And these are just some shots that I took that day that show the nature and size of the track.
Because they put it on top of the regular track, right?
That's right. They've got several wood tracks over there. John will know all about them. This one looks I've never driven on any of the wooden tracks over there.
Yeah,
I've only ever been there.
4-lane scale track.
This is,
So,
yeah.
At Rockingham, we've got, in that room, there's 4 tracks, technically. The 4-lane scale track, obviously, the hard body stuff we race. There's the Brisker track beside it. We've got a 6-lane slot track. And then there's Hill Farm slot rally track on some pulleys above it. So, as you were saying, we just lay that track down. It's about 8 seconds, 9 seconds, I think, the laps. But,
yeah.
But it's a good track. I think there was 8 of us. It's nice and tight because obviously you'll break away and then you'll find a gaggle of 2 or 3 cars all fighting each other. You know. Anyway, carry on away.
No, I actually want, if anyone wants to drop any comments in or put me right about anything, you're more than welcome to do that. Ask me questions, I'll try and answer. So this was our car. John had prepared it, oXigen, digital, built to Disca GT3 spec with foam tires, their spec motor. I think the cars have to be production cars, don't they? And this one is a Black Arrow Ferrari 458. Tell me if I'm wrong, John. 458.
Yeah,
458.
Yeah. Technically, it's illegal because it's got the orange chassis. That's illegal now.
That's been made illegal. Yeah, it's been made illegal since the race, hasn't it?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I was aware that Disca said that is this a soft version? I think this is a soft version of the chassis.
Yeah.
And it was the car that finished in 1st and 2nd place. Not this one, but this type of car finished in both 1st and 2nd that day. And this was our one. And this was the first time I'd had opportunity to take photographs of a well-prepped GT3 Disca spec car.
Strange
so that was
he didn't use the Black Arrow gears. He used some looked like slotted gears.
I can't comment on that because this was my first. Yeah,
Okay.
You're right. It does look like slotted equipment, but why? I have no idea.
On the opinion.
I think
is that an alley pinion?
Shot again, please, Wayne.
It's an ergo pinion. Yeah.
It looks silver, so it looks like it could be alley.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's got to be a 13, 14, isn't it? Actually,
it's pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah. 14, I would have thought. 14, 28. It's about right. We normally run those about 2 to 1. So.
Okay. It was about right enough for us to get pole position on the day for the first race, and I don't know whether do these cars. Can anyone tell me? Do these cars have some of those links that you have to cut out in these two slots?
You have to put the grab screws.
Oh, you
Yeah,
put
no,
the grub
they're really
screws
big,
horizontally, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen some little those there. That'll be what those are for.
I mean, the kit already should come with 6 mil grab screws that you can put through.
Oh yeah. You see, it's 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still learning about it because I've never had one of these in my hand since then. But this is what it looks like after 90 minutes of running on that track.
Did you put any heat strings on the motor side?
Any what?
The heat strings.
Heat strings?
Yeah, for protecting. Yeah. Do you have another picture from the top?
Like that?
Oh yeah. If there was someone that we know who come here and complain that your Ferritman legs are all out there, you could short everything.
This one could go to the can easily in an impact, probably. Yeah, I should think
Is this your car?
No, this one's John's car.
Okay.
Come on, you know better.
I just turned up and drove. And this is
Okay,
obviously a connection. Oh no, this is the
lights.
The lights, yeah, connection to lights. So yeah, that was I've lost.
It's not a dig at John. I mean John prepared.
No.
It's an internal joke. I think Greg already saw it.
And is this an aftermarket guide that's been fitted to that car?
Say again?
Like Scale Auto.
Is this an after?
That was John Granger's car.
That's right, John Granger.
Ah, John Granger. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Then,
yeah.
We got, look at this time, a 691 versus a 725. That's quite a big, that's a biggish gap for qualifying.
It's a miscount, mate.
It wasn't a miscount.
No, the one underneath that's a true speed.
These, well, this one's another.
No, that one, the Tucker Underwood is a true speed.
Yeah, this is John. Yeah, I don't know. This was another quarter second behind. A tenth, 2 tenths.
But you did say that the car is now illegal. May that be why?
Yeah, too good.
It may be. The chassis.
No, because of the chassis is not anymore considered legal. Because you have to use the black standard chassis from Black Arrow.
But why?
Because I don't know. Gary Skip basically is the one going. I think because he wants to kind of have a bit more standard across.
I think
the
chassis. And they don't want anybody under 7 seconds.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. I mean, to be honest with you, he doesn't care. He just want to make sure that we don't go all for one then specific car. Because
that's
then
exactly
it would
what I was
be
going to say.
A shitty kind of, would be like going for the Muslin or whatever.
Yeah, it would be a one car class because it was so good.
And GT3 would be really bad.
So shortly after
that was just to qualify.
That race was a separate independent GT3.
No, I know, but that kind of stuff that you were showing, that was like the qualify session or the final score?
No, that was the qualifying session.
How did you finish on that race?
We got second place twice.
Okay.
And we lost to a team with Mr. Tucker and I believe Mr. Underwood.
Yeah, so you see slower cars, if it's driven consistently and
running the same
without
car.
any pressure, yeah.
No, they were the other 458 that day. So I've still got the trophies over there on the side of my TV. So anyway, I came away from that race and in telephone conversation with John, we were good to go. 2017 Disco Le Mans, great. I know it's going to be a good team. Gary Skips told me so. So then he adds me to the WhatsApp group for the team, and then he within a few days he came back to the WhatsApp group and said, "I'm sorry, Wayne, I found another driver, and unfortunately, he's a superstar driver. So I've got to add him to the team. I've invited him to come, and he's agreed to come. So you can't be part of our team this year, unfortunately." So that's what happened.
You got Kimmied.
I got Kimmied. So I got back to Gary Skip and I said, do you know whether or not there's a team that needs a driver? Because I'm back on the market. I've now got some pedigree because I've done that Disca race and I've got some trophies for doing it. So if there's anybody out there that you know that needs a team, he says, I know just the man. Unfortunately, he's in Italy, but he's coming to do the race. And he needs 2 team drivers.
It's Mauricio.
And I've got you and another guy lined up to join his team. So here we are, 2017. I think it's April 2nd, something like that. 11 a.m. in the morning. Oh, this is the end of the race. But at 11 a.m. in the morning, I'm the first person to turn up at the Disca 24 hour. I creep into the hall and I find Tamar's in there and I find Gary's in there. And I'm looking through the window, literally thinking, oh, nothing's going on yet. There's a couple of people in there, but there's nothing going on. And then Tamar noticed me at the door and he said, come on in, have a look. I said, well, I actually came last year during the race. I just snuck around and took a couple of photos and this and that. I said, he says, are you part of this year's race? I said, yes, I am. I'm looking for a group of Italians. I don't know any more than that, really. I don't know any names. I just know that I'm waiting for some Italians to arrive. Then,
which are always punctual and on time.
According to their time.
Then hey, this guy.
Time is relative, right? So.
And then I presume you can see my screen now. A share screen. Can you see a share screen from me now?
Yeah, we see a bearded.
Yeah.
We're on there.
So then this guy came up to me and introduced himself. He said, hello, are you Wayne? I'm William. I was like, yeah, that's right. Pleased to meet you. He says, I'm the other British driver for that Italian team that we're both going to join and we've never met before. And so, okay, that was that bit squared and away, shall we say. And then these 2 fellas turned up, Italian fellas, and I had to go looking through the entry list earlier this year, back in the slot forum earlier this evening, so that I could get their names accurately. They are Giovanni and Giuseppe, and the team we were in was GSM, which is called Gruppo Slotistico 2 Miglio, and I don't know what that Miglio words means. Perhaps you can tell me. Mile. Group slot mile. So we were GSM, Team GSM. Now, what made this event very interesting for me and William in particular was the fact that the only English speaker that you're looking at there is this fellow, and this fellow is the guy that built the car, and we couldn't even really speak to him about the car, but they showed us this, and William and I were like, okay, that's what is this then? And they said, well, we managed to establish that it was a 3D printed the Area 71 body shell on a 3D printed the Area 71 chassis, and we were like, well, what's with that rear wing up
I was
there?
going to say, so what's with the Manchester City? That came all the way from Italy with Manchester City on it?
Yes, it did. Now, as you're probably aware, Manchester City is one of my local football teams. It's about 40 miles from where I live. And this is not a real livery, supposedly. It was debated, and the car was actually thrown out of what's the concours judging, because it wasn't a real livery.
I'm surprised it even raced, actually.
However, it did appear, the car, the Nissan Nismo GT Le Mans, LM, is it called GTR, isn't it? Did actually appear at Manchester City Football Club in this livery, but never raced like that. It was just a promotional thing. So that's why they chose it, because it would be highly visible on the track. And it was a livery that at one time appeared on the car despite never having raced. But we've got a rear wing that's made of paper. So what's the first thing we do is the 2 Italian teams all say, right, we've thrown our gear in the hole, let's go and eat. It was all very manana, although that's not an Italian phrase. It was, so William and I both jumped in the car, followed them to a restaurant, and this is the 2 Italian teams. The other team you can see around the table here is Team Posilipo Racing, and
Yep.
there's Giuseppe and Giovanni. Pasilipo are very competitive at the Disco Le Mans. So when we finally get the body shell off the car, this is what we've presented. This is what we've got. This is, for me, only the second oXigen digital car that I've really had any responsibility for. And I look at it and I see a slotted motor pod, and I know that we're going to be running in LMP2. Now, the rules for LMP2 is that you must use your motor in an inline configuration. For LMP1, you can use it in any configuration, angle winder, sidewinder, however you want to fit it. So it turns out that this car has a sister car, and it is the Striker racing car that John Granger has built. This is the car that I was destined to be driving, and that was the car that I actually ended up driving, the inline version of the same car. Now, I'm going to guess that they got their body shell plenty ahead of time because they've managed to produce a real rear wing. But there's another difference, and that is that their chassis has not got as much plastic in it as our chassis has. And if you look down here, they've got a external frame, which is black, just penned or painted black, I'm not sure.
So Wayne, that's actually a gap there?
That's actually, you're looking at the tabletop through through the chassis. So you can see that there's a significant difference between this car and our car, because our car has got writing in there.
Right.
We also have a big round hole just here for the guide, whereas the other one doesn't have it. It's just got this
Square hole.
Yeah, it's just got this square hole. Now then, so I don't know what photograph is next, but I better tell a story based on the photo order, which took me a long time to do. Getting the order, something like, so yeah, we start driving the car. Oh no, this is the next step, isn't it? Turns up at the event, starts installing lighting kit. So this is, if I move my scroll wheel, it changes the picture. So this is, yeah, these are full-size 5.5mm LEDs that have been hot glued into the body shell. And I believe this is a capacitor that keeps the lights on when the car de-slots. This is the lighting control chip. I don't know much about those, except that they're necessary. And the lights are all held into place with hot glue gun, hot glue blobs. Oh, the reason behind the paint scheme, the other reason behind the paint scheme is because it was quick and easy. And I think the Italians tried to tell me that they hadn't been able to get the body shell and the chassis with enough time to build it, let alone test it. So they did a really quick spray can light blue paint job. So just in case anybody's watching and they don't know what we're about to do, this is some pictures of the circuit that I took that day.
Wow, and you had spectators. That's so cool.
Oh yes, there's some attempt at furniture. I mean, not just the fencing and the lighting, the functional lighting, really good. And the curb.
To be fair, I think Tamar is known as the guy who will be spending the night before qualifying and stuff, finishing up the livery on a car and finishing up
the same morning, not the night before.
The same morning,
yes.
Yeah. So it's not like
so when we run the Porsche the day, I mean the year before, I mean, we were like at the breakfast and he was putting the decals on top of the car while having breakfast. And that morning was a racing time.
Yeah,
there's actually a video on YouTube, and it's a video. Somebody's recorded the whole event from their point of view, and it starts in their hotel room, and he's actually folded the toilet lid down, and he's sat on the toilet in reverse with his knees behind the toilet, because on the top of the cistern there's a large flat area that he can get all his modeling gear out on. And that's on YouTube. It's from a previous event that I wasn't anything to do with, but you're absolutely right, Gio. He does the same, bearing in mind that Tamar's not behind this car on this occasion. But yes, he does the same, and like I said, that's on YouTube. So this is.
I don't think Tamar will ever touch that car, man. Or come close to it.
This is the nature of the track. It's 4-lane the whole way around. It's a replica of the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans in France, better known as Le Mans in France. It's got some nice purpose-built scenery.
Well, sorry, Wayne. What's the? Oh my gosh! What's the lap length?
233 feet.
Mhm.
This straight takes about 4 seconds.
Can actually breathe.
Yeah, this is where you get the opportunity to put your trigger
Destroy
in your
the
other
cars.
Yeah, put the control in your other hand and give your right hand a quick shake out whilst you're doing the lap. Swap it back and then lift for Arnage at the end of the straight. Sorry, the Muslin Kink. This corner is not flat out. In the HO circuit that I've shown you in the past, which is, this one is based on, this corner's flat out for a HO car, but it's not for one of
To
these.
be honest, both are based on the 24 hours Le Mans circuit. So
Yeah.
it's all like this one is based on the HO ones, right?
Well, this only on the basis that the HO race that I've done 5 times before has been around for a lot longer. And Gary came to race the HO one when he was a teenager and subsequently produced this event, which is fantastic. I mean, the HO one could be a lot more than it is, but this one's the one that's really took off as far as I'm concerned. So you get the Muslin Kink, the famous Muslin corner, and I'm just going around the track, picking up. This corner's not flat out either. You're flat between there and there, and you're flat between there and there, but you've really got to time your lift very, very well. And of course, you've got lane changes to consider coping with. In fact, learning where all the lane changes on this layout is a task, a huge task in of itself, to find out where they are, to work out where they all are and which direction they go and what you can and can't do with them.
Now, is your team also responsible for marshalling as well?
Yes. These marshal mats are all given a number, and there might be 14 marshals on the lap. It depends on how many teams enter. I think the maximum number of teams allowed to enter is 16. Although the system can handle more, I don't think the sports hall can.
Yeah, so exactly. So the system can go up to 20, but first of all, I think we never try to get up to 20. And then the other thing is that, as Wayne was saying, you cannot handle that many people inside.
Most teams in this race are 4, 5, or 6 people, mainly 5. That way you can have a driver driving, a marshal marshalling, a mechanic on hand in case the car stops for any reason, and 2 people sleeping. Exactly. And you've got to work out who's going to go to bed at 7 p.m. in the evening and get up about 1 or something like that, so that you can bring fresh people in.
Right. No, not to jump ahead, but do you actually dim the lights as well?
Yes.
Of course, we go completely dark, not just dim the lights.
Yeah,
and then try to find the bloody lane changers.
Exactly. You can't see where the lane changes are in the dark, can you? All you can see of your own car is its headlights when it's approaching, its tail lights when it's departing, and a little bit of both when it's on the main straight. It's really fascinating. You can
It's
see
a
the
beautiful
cars
event
in certain areas. You can see you can see that the lights are on over there. And if I go back a couple of pictures, there are lights on the outside of the Muslin corner. And there's actually, and here's a bit of a secret, there's actually a blue LED just there on the apex of that corner.
It's a secret that everybody knows, Wayne.
So that's the only way you know where this corner is in the dark. So I get some pictures of the track. These are the famous Porsche curves. I don't know the name of them all.
That's a beautiful part of the track as well.
But one of the features of the track is that the pit lane is there, and it's on the right side, the inside. These are the pit lane buildings. You'll see more of those. But if you come along in lane 4 from here, I believe that if you hold one of your SCP buttons down, you can go in one lane, in one lane, in one lane, and in the pits. So even if you come out of Arnage corner, the last one, you can still get across to the pit lane. So there's a lot of lane changes going through the Porsche curves. I think
now how many cars are racing on the track at the same time?
15, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, depending on the entry, up to 16. And this part of the track is called the Ford Chicane. It's the tightest little flick flack before you go along the start finish straight and round the Dunlop corner under the Dunlop Bridge. And this area here is race control, where they've got the main computer.
And that's Alex, one of the founders.
That's Alex, yeah, one of the organisers. One of the Gary and Alex are a team that ran this event. So yeah, there's 2 lanes into the pits. If you want to work on a car, you have to do it by picking the car out the pit lane, unless it's stopped, unless it's broken. But you're expected to return a car to the pit lane, and that's the only area that you're meant to work on a car to or from. And I didn't get a picture of the buildings, but there are a full row of pit lane buildings with parked trailers and even people with, there's a Ferris wheel, isn't there? That Ferris wheel.
I was gonna ask you about the Ferris wheel. Yeah,
there's a Ferris wheel, and it must be 500 millimeters tall. It must be half a yard tall, and it's a real psychedelic thing because it's got LEDs on it, and it doesn't just go around in a circle with LEDs. It's actually got this thing inside that swings around and around, and it's enough to start a headache.
With a little bit of sleep deprivation, it'll really mess you up.
It does. So we're back in the pits here, and while the car is having its having its lighting kit fitted, I pull out this little machine that I've acquired during RC car racing, and it's got a variable voltage output here, and on the screen you can see what voltage it thinks it's outputting. You can see what current the motor's drawing, and there's a little jobby that you can put on the armature shaft, and a little infrared, I think it's infrared sensor that tells you what RPM. This is voltage, current, and RPM measured. So I'm checking out and beginning to do some running on our handout motors, which are obviously non-soldered, non-labeled, but brand new and marked as handout motors. At this time, you can see we've now got a black chassis on, but we do have still in our armory the option to change to the chassis that's got a huge hole in it, just the same as the other teams running. So during the numerous hour-and-a-half practice sessions that you get through the Friday, which is the day of practice before the event starts on Saturday morning, we were working through all the options we got with regard to our chassis. But we also discovered, once we got these motors in the car, that we got no real straight line speed. Oh, that's the device in use, and that's the little sensor in my hand. And I don't actually know what I'm using. I think it might be a HO wheel with a red foam tire on it. You use what you can when I just went with all my modeling equipment in my car and just went out to the car to fetch what I needed as I determined I needed it. And this, I've mentioned this in the past. Dennis has asked me what this is, and I still don't really know the answer, but what brand this is. It's not a hoodie, although there's a hoodie sticker underneath there. It's my commutator lathe for armatures for RC car. The armatures that were fit in this lathe are the armatures that are also in this motor. So what I've got here is I've got a slot car wheel and the rubber belt running around the pulley. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the cutting tip to take the ridge out of an inline gear, because we're running, it's that ridge, and I'm cutting it off so that we can mesh a larger pinion. Now, we hadn't got a larger pinion. We hadn't got any straight line speed. We had got on the largest wheel in the handout tire, so we couldn't increase our speed without going smaller on the crown gear here or going larger on the pinion. So I went around the hall, talking to strangers, and eventually I managed to score us a 13-tooth pinion, which is a horrible mesh when you put it on in standard configuration. But because I took this ridge off the aluminium boss, of course, we're not using the armature. We had to cut down the armature shaft, which is allowed, but we weren't using the armature in the groove there to control lateral movement. We got these collets on. This is actually now the car at the end of the race. Of course, I've not been taking photographs because I've been busy driving, mechanicking, marshalling, sleeping, and just generally getting worn down.
Learning Italian.
And trying to learn, well, yeah. There's a couple of interesting stories. This car, we've now got on that chassis that the other team were running from the beginning, which is the one with the holes in it. And this is the one that we chose to put on the car into the race. For some reason, it just ran quicker. It felt a little bit easier to drive, but we could see that when we were driving within ourselves, trying to drive like an endurance driver would rather than a qualifying driver, this is the car that just allowed us to stay on and maintain some of the pace that we had managed to get out of the car, but only sporadically. So here it is. This is the car at the end of the race. It's got the third variant of the chassis that we've got with us on it. And as you can see, it's covered in debris, which is all tire shavings, tire wear that just sits in the track and gets thrown up in the body shells, adds weight to the car. It potentially clogs the inside of the motors, I understand, although I've never actually, we didn't suffer, I don't think.
Sorry to interrupt again, Wayne, but so
Yeah,
during
no,
the race, what exactly do you have to change the tires? Did you have to change
Yes.
the motor or?
Yes, there are two, historically, and I think this is going to change in future, but there are basically two handout tires. They are the slotted F22 and the slotted N18.
Two types. I mean, but you have several sets.
You have several sets, not two sets, not four tires. You have six, I think, 6 sets. And you, amongst those 6 sets, you have 2 sets of F22 and 4 sets of N18, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, Giovanni. I can't remember exactly the numbers.
I don't remember, but that's the principle. So the F22 should be the
12 sets.
Yeah.
Pardon? 12 sets.
I think it's something like 12, or it's quite a few.
It's plenty.
Yeah.
And they're all kept at race control. At race control, there is a tray with all these boxes in it, numbered 1 to 14, 1 to 16, and each team has its tires in that box at race control, and you have to be observed while you remove tires from your box or put tires in your box. If you go to your box, your tires are basically staying there. So you can go with wheels. You can put your tires on your wheels and put them back in the box. And then when you're doing a pit stop for wheel or for tires, you have to go to race control and inform them that you're about to do a pit stop for wheels. And then when you take your used wheels off, you generally take them back to the box on race control and put them back in the box, just in case you're going to need them later on. There is a noticeable drop off in performance of the tires during the stint that the tires do. In general, the N18 tire is good for about 4 hours. At 4 hour mark, it's starting to let you down, and you can see the lap times and the consistency of the car starting to go away. The F22 tire tends to go around the lap a little bit quicker, and it's a little bit easier to drive. They do call it the fun or the party tire, I think was the Tamar's phrase for it. It's the party tire, the F22, but we do most of the running, and you certainly seem to qualify on the quickest on the N18. And I'm probably giving away more than I should, but yeah, the N18, particularly when it's new, is really, really good. You don't true the tires, you just put them on the wheels and put them on the track, and before you know it, well, they're performing very well straight away. But before you know it, the amount of wear that they experience is making them true anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're not allowed to glue the tires on the rim, but you're allowed to true them if you are doing it on the table in the pit area.
Well, I didn't actually know the answer to that, Giovanni. I've never wanted to true.
Yeah, I know, because basically John Granger in 2016, they were doing that. So.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it was legal. I certainly don't see many people with truers at this race.
That's correct, yeah. But they were doing it. So.
You wouldn't want to take a lot of life out of the tire, would you? Because you put them on and they're about, I don't know, let's say they're 21 diameter, and they'll come off at 19, won't they? They actually physically get smaller during the...
It's a trade-off, right? So you want nice flat tires that you can go, straight into max performance for whatever they're gonna last you, or you want to wait that an Ingo truck is doing the true for you. So
So I've literally gone and just gotten all the photographs. There's a one photograph coming up that I'm definitely going to ask a question about.
Oh, well, actually,
breaking
wait,
chassis.
can I ask you,
So
can you go back to the other
broke
one
the
for a
chassis.
sec? Sorry.
Yeah, we did break the chassis. What was that, John?
So there looks like there's a piece of metal across the rear bracket there.
Yeah, you know what, John? You're ahead of me. I'm going to come to a better picture of that.
I'm sorry.
It's just there. And it is one of the things that I wanted to, that is a link to what Alan showed us last week. And I'll come to that when I get to the best picture.
Okay,
That's a standard. That's a standard slotted stuff.
It is. I've done my own research, and it's there in the packet with the motor mount.
Yeah.
But let's discuss that when I get to the best picture. You can see here that we've completely lost the front splitter.
Yeah, that's a demonstration straight for you. So turn the picture. So you have the other picture.
This way?
No, sorry. So you had the picture from the bottom of the.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. So basically, you see. Did you have any protection for the chip?
A big hole.
Yeah.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, you lucky bastards, because you know that LEDs is a conductive case, so
that's the LED.
You can lose. Yeah, so you can lose basically the chip if it's gonna touch the rails or something, like short of the chip.
Okay. Oh, we had. You are required to put non-conductive tape on the bottom of your motor. Yeah. That's so that you don't short the rails, because the motors do start to touch the rails, particularly in the angle winder cars. I've noticed that they go around making the shush noises as they touch down on the track.
Especially if you have such a famously chassis as well, right? So the chassis was painted, right? But it's kind of losing the paint.
Maybe this. Well, look, this is our one, and it's blackened, and we've lost a little bit here that's clearly on the rails, but I don't know how it was blackened. And I don't know, we've not got too much of it, but we have got broken sides, and we have lost the complete front splitter.
So what's the final result?
I ought to tell you about the guide. Now, it turns out that this team had gone home from a Disca 24-hour in the past because they'd managed to break the tongue off the chassis. So in an attempt to prevent that from happening again in future, they turned up in 2017 with a clip-in guide. Now, as we'd lost our front splitter, everything we hit with the front of our car, we hit with our guide. And eventually, all the marshals around the track learned that when they saw the light blue car off in the vicinity of where they were marshalling, they would have to clip the guide back in, because in the nighttime, it started to pop out every time we had a crash. Now, let me tell you, that really makes you focus on your driving.
Yeah, and also making the marshal really happy.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, not yeah. So this was our Italian 2017 car. Now then, I think we're getting to the point where I should have been mentioning that little wire brace or whatever it is. Can somebody tell me what that is and what that's for? It goes from just above the bush, where there's a small loop in the plastic of the pod, over to this piece of plastic which is screwed on the back of it's screwed on behind the pinion, isn't it, with the motor mount screws, and it goes over to a similar hole on the other side. Now, I've had one of these put in my hand in recent times, and I forgot to mention it when we did the pod analysis with Alan last week, all the various pods. And if I'm not mistaken, this long can inline pod is the only motor pod that has this. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
I can tell you what that is, Wayne. That's fairly standard slotted it's called a long can inline, and it's a pod stiffener. I mean, slotted pods are pretty good anyway compared to a lot of the other manufacturers. But if you look at what's going on here, from the back of the motor to the back of the axle, that wiring there holds the whole thing in place. And actually, there's a piece of plastic that goes right behind the motor,
Just
so
there?
the whole thing goes into place in an arc. You put it's just right behind the motor. You'll see there's a pin.
This one?
Yeah, that's it. Now that whole piece of plastic goes in as one piece and slides in as it pivots on the two pieces where it goes near the axle. And the whole objective of this is to stiffen the pod. I've used Slotit's inline pods without this in, with very powerful motors, and they're still pretty good. So it's nice to have. It's a nice thing to have to make sure the pod really is stiff, but I've found it not always to be necessary.
I got you. So it is exactly what Chris has told us about. The triangle from bush to bush to bush should be as stiff as possible. And this is an attempt to improve the stiffness. Yeah,
and I think Maurizio's done a very good job of this, actually. When you put one of these under a bit of pressure, you get one in your hands and start to kind of give it a bit of force and twist it. It really does. It really holds the whole of the pod very, very solidly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was literally given a pod in a packet, and not to own and use, but I was shown one, and I was like, "What's this piece of metal in the pod?" And I'd forgotten that I'd ever had one. But looking through these photographs to get them together for tonight, I discovered that I ran one back in 2017 and didn't think twice about it. But what you can also see here is the cut-off motor shaft and the fact that the motor shaft wouldn't have gone into the slot in the gear. This is one of the modified gears. To go back to some of the comment about that John asked, we have to replace rear tires about 4 hourly. We have to replace braid. I don't really have a number in mind for how long braid lasts, but it does generally need replacing. I'm going to guess about 8 to 12 hours, depending on how well set up your car's working, I think.
Does the braid actually fray, or what happens to it?
It stops working. That's what happens to it. The track gets so much action from 14 cars sliding around on it that there is a theory, and I'm not going to argue with it, that the rubber from the tires actually builds up on the rails, and that causes the cars to start to stutter and not pick up power as well as they probably should.
So the brushes actually clean the rails as they go along, just get gummed up.
Well, yeah, John will know probably more, having done the race more than me. But the last time I did the race, I think we did it on 4 pairs of brushes at pickups.
They don't just wear down physically, like.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the main reason.
Well,
because if there is a gunk on the rails, even if you put in new braids, they're not going to do much.
Yeah, we do find that on the Sunday morning, there are a lot more drivers tempted to run on lane 4 and lane 1 as a habit, just go round and round. This is what you do in these endurance races. You stay in a lane until you come across traffic. And if you're coming up behind traffic that you know that you're quicker than, or because you've done it enough laps, because you've been driving for nearly 2 hours, you will have come across a certain car a few times in that period. And you'll know whether it's a leading car, whether it's a car that you're basically going to have to pass. And then you'll just nip one lane either side of it and hope that it doesn't change lane, and you'll go past it, and then you'll go back to your preferred lane. But for the most part, it's lanes 2 and 3 that seem to be the busiest lanes. And they're the ones that in the Sunday morning, you're squeezing the throttle coming through the Porsche curves, and you're noticing, in particular in the Porsche curves, which is right below you where you're standing, you're noticing that the car's not got the go that it used to have. And it's just the lights are, I don't know if the lights flicker as they go from being powered to being on their capacitor. And you just tend to notice.
it's just a dry joint. Yeah.
The track joints.
Yeah. It's obviously if you think of the track, how many pieces of track are there?
Oh, billion. Well, yeah, not billion. Lots.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of power jumpers in there.
How many joints are there?
Oh my, there's a lot of joints between.
If you have one or two that don't quite match up,
yeah,
you're going to lose power.
Yeah.
That's
so you think it's just low voltages on a given piece of track because of
just dropping. It's like any track. Well, any
plastic track.
Plastic track. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have the occasional dropping. So what you do, stop it and you go and fix it. Gary doesn't stop the race.
No, he doesn't stop the race. He leaves it running. If it's got low power, as long as the cars keep lapping, he'll just leave it running.
Yeah, you can see all the power taps. That's why that's why you try and eliminate it.
Yeah, and he has actually added more power taps since 2017, hasn't he? He's actually done a lot to change. I remember that in 2017, I think the lighting around the track took its power from the rails, and the lights would go bright and dim.
Yeah,
it was 16.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know.
Look at Rockingham. We run. I think we run about 8 power packs at Rockingham.
Yeah.
I also know that one of the biggest.
You need the drivers, the power to your controller. I think there's 4 or 5 power supplies to the track.
Yeah.
I also know that one of the biggest things that Gary and Alex or whoever the other person was,
Alex,
has to do before the event is prep the track. I mean, they sit there for days preparing each and every track piece to make sure that the joins are crimped and the track is clean and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that when it gets put together, it's as good as it can possibly be. And then
no one could beat Gary
72 hours of racing, it's gonna start falling apart towards the end.
Yeah, well, it's laying on the sports hall floor, and the marshals have to reach across it. And some of those marshals are lying down, so it must get bumped and it must move marginally. And the
cars will move it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true on the floor. So anyway, this is the grid. I'm not going to take. There's not like we've already looked at the car at the end of the race. That's just the way the photographs were taken. But here's the car on the grid. As you can see, we've already lost this side of our wing mount. We're already using the handout sticky tape to keep our wing on the car. We've already lost the front splitter, but we have qualified in 3rd position because for some reason we managed to get a quick lap. We got a quick lap that was in the 15s and we were up there in 3rd position. And I thought at the start of the race anyway, do you know what? We might actually have a car here. The Striker car was very quick in practice as well, by the way. And it's essentially the same car. It's just got an inline layout. So, yeah, we thought we got a car. It turned out we were slightly wrong, particularly with regard to the guide incident.
Wait. So this is the car at the beginning of the race?
Yes, it is.
So you already basically screwed up the car even before the starting of the race? Yes,
we had already scrapped. It was scrap value, but well, you wait and watch because it's gonna get better. As you can see, there's another.
It's the world, right? You have 24 hours of hard racing.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So we've got another example of a 3D printed body. I don't think this is. I'm almost certain this is not a TA71. Look at the layer lines. Look at the attempt to 3D print the glass. It was really, really rough, but it was. I don't know how strong it was.
That's a Spanish car, isn't it?
I don't think.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That's not the DIT slot, is it? Not this year. This year was won by Striker.
Right, the R18.
Yeah, it was one of these. I believe that's your car, John. I believe that's Rockingham on pole. This is us. This is the GT3. This is the Ford GT. And look, we've lost the wing mount on this side. We don't know what we're going to do. But, we've still got a wing on, so we'll start.
Italian team then, I think, run that Ford, possibly.
I think the last one was, I think it was won by the Italian team with the GTLM. So was it the Ferrari?
You had a timing screen. Wayne.
The Pasilipo.
Yeah.
The time it could have been Pasilipo.
No, not this year. It wasn't. Pasilipo started winning in 19, I believe, and I think it was Dick Slot in 18. And I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, was it Striker in this year, 17?
I believe so. Yeah. Pasilipo entered every single Le Mans, every single time this event was on, and only. And clearly we're going to heading to win, but only won in 2019, which I believe is probably going to be the final race. We're not going to see this this event at this hall in the UK again, which is a bit of a shame, but that's how it goes.
I don't think it's going to stop us from racing it, though, is it, Alan?
No, it's hopefully the idea is for I believe the track is also on its way to Igualada near Barcelona.
Igualada.
Brick track.
It says it's going to Spain, right?
I believe they're going to do it. So, you know.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know whether they were going to use this very track, their own track, or perhaps even some polycar track. I'm not sure what the future track might have been. But it would have been nice.
As far as I know, the track is still in the UK with Alex and Gary.
I would hope that I would cross my fingers and hope, and I'm not trying to influence him, but I would hope that this
influence Gary.
This would stay in the UK, and potentially in the future another hall might come on the market, might become available. But if the track goes, we've lost it, haven't we? We've lost it for good, I think.
I think the truth is we've lost it anyway. I mean, there was an earlier edition of the slot chat where Gary Skip was. We had a chat with Gary Skip.
Yes.
Basically, he and Alex just really don't want to have to do all the donkey work anymore. They're happy to
yes.
Concept
yeah.
to other people to do.
So,
so I don't see it staying in the UK, and I don't see Gary and Alex actually running it in the future.
Again, yeah. Well, I'm time sensitive now. I've noticed we've got about 10 minutes remaining, so I'm just going to carry on skipping through. I'd like you to take note of the fact that the back of the body shell is quite detailed and full of these, I'm going to call them vents. I don't know whether they were light apertures or what they were in the real car, but just note the fact that
the body shell still looks like shit. Yeah, I mean, even if you have all those details, it will still look like shit.
Thank you. So these are the other cars on the grid, going down the grid. Some of these are printed, some of them are OEM, most of them are painted, one or two of them are not. This is the other team. This is the Angle Winder LMP1 Striker racing car that I was destined to drive. It starts the race with its front splitter on. Look.
Yeah, they didn't manage.
A little bit.
And if I'm not mistaken, this car is the car that Maurizio ran.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know all the cars. Bearing in mind, this is my first attendance at the race.
I was going to say, that's an OEM car.
It is.
Yes,
that's
it is.
An OEM
both of them, actually. Both of them. These are both slotty LMP.
Okay. A lot of nice cars. I mean, there's been a modification. This is the car of the team that my friend, the RC car racer, was in. This is a very.
And if I'm not mistaken, this one is a Carrera body that has been
Carrera, yeah. And it's got green LED inside of it, so when it runs at night and it lights up the whole body shell, you can really, really see this car. This, I believe, is Gary Skip's entry. Gary and Alex drive this one.
Yeah.
Somebody ran a Carrera body.
Tamar
ran a Carrera body. Oh, that's the one he dug.
No, this is not Tamar.
This is not Tamar. This is a British Midlands-based Quorn Slot Car Club, I think it would be from.
I'm just amazed they used a Carrera body.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going through different iterations, and every time it's lost a couple of grams. I think that iteration was like just 3 grams of body. It was more like
this team
Lexan body.
This team comes from North Staff Slot Car Club in the UK. And then this team back here is
the Portuguese.
The Portuguese who print the blue 3D printed chassis. What they call Oliver Racing. Oliver Racing. This is their first entry in the Le Mans 24. they've come and they're our main competition in LMP2. So you've seen a lot of LMP cars. The red ones in the timing sheet are the LMP1 cars, and they're allowed to run the motor in angle winder orientation. The blue ones are the LMP1 cars, and they run an inline configuration.
LMP2.
Sorry, LMP2. Red is 1, blue is LMP2, and the green ones are GT cars,
GTL.
and they're allowed to run any configuration, and they have a narrower track width. They're about 2 or 3 millimeters narrower. All go around the track relatively similar, but most of the time the race is run by an LMP1 car.
So you also, sorry to interrupt, but you also have a safety car?
Yes. That's
That's at the beginning, yeah.
That
Oh,
goes
okay, just
around.
at the beginning. Okay, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
It is capable of being driven, and it is capable. There are provisions in the rule set for it to actually go out and do its function. If there was a piece of track that needed attention, or a piece of, they can actually limit the power. They can actually even send all the cars to the pit lane with the race control software, but they can use the safety car as a safety car in the race if they deemed it necessary. It would spoil the purity somewhat, but there you go. It can run, and it does run. It runs at the start, and it starts the race.
So Wayne, that's like a 15-second lap? If you're
Yes, for a best lap, yeah, 14s.
Wow.
Even a qualifying lap, you get several cars in the 14s normally. You normally get about 3 or 4 cars that crack a 14-second lap. These are best laps, and these are last laps. Look at these. If you have a crash, you tend to do one of these. If you're flying, you tend to do a 15 or a 16, and if you're cruising, you're just flicking between 16s and 17s.
Well, for the length of track, that's really quick.
Oh, it is. They're really quick. So does this tell us who won the race? I think it does. I think this is the Striker Racing team, and this is the guy that took my base space in the team. However, he did give me the 13-tooth pinion that I borrowed from him to get my car on the pace. There you go.
Okay, forgiven then.
Yeah. Well, I needed to go and
Yeah,
and
that
learn it.
guy basically has won the most of these competitions, of these 24 hours Le Mans run by Gary. So in fact, he's like the Danish guy. I mean, I don't remember his name, but he's like the mini.
So is that
Mini
a box
version.
of 1/32 scale Rolex watches?
Yeah,
Oh,
of
it would be
course.
nice if it was. Yeah.
You put on your driver for your car.
So there's pots for 3 categories, and I think we finished second overall in LMP2.
That's probably for concourse, I presume.
It's likely to be the concourse. Bearing in mind that for a race event, you get those. Yeah, that's probably a concourse prize.
Yeah, as I say, concourse, I presume.
On their body shell, the doors opened and they've got hinges and stuff, all that kind of stuff on it.
Was that a bottle of champagne on the table as well?
Yeah.
There you go.
But it's
Yeah.
always the same. I mean, it's not we don't open. It's always the same. It's the same bottle year after year.
Economy.
Spray it all over the track. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
It's a
here,
sport pool, so.
here you can see the end of the race, and you can see what happens to the cars over 24 hours of racing in particular.
Okay, hold on. How did you manage to keep that rear wing on?
They look
Well,
like real cars having been through 24 hours when you see the close-up pictures of these things.
Look at the wings. Look at the wings.
Yeah. All of them.
Yeah,
Strangely
John,
enough,
to answer your question, the wings, you are not allowed to run without a wing. So when the wing gets smashed off, they will call you in and say, fix the wing.
You have to
So
run the
one way
wing.
or another, whether they're glued, taped, gummed, and God knows what, but the wing has to be there to continue to race.
That's correct.
Cool.
And because people used to use horrible types of tape and duct tape, there's even now a roll of tape at race control, and you must use the prerequisite barely visible tape.
So there's actually, the tape is regulated.
Even the regulation handout tape, which most of the cars have had to use.
It's too bad. You could have used hockey tape. You wouldn't have a problem.
Now, what's interesting about this here is that for some reason, we've got our front splitter back on. Can you see the black?
Yeah.
You change
Yeah,
the
well,
chassis.
maybe it's like false teeth. Maybe he just did that for the photo.
There you
I
go.
think, no, I think we had to put it back on so that we stopped losing the guide blade. And look at the sister car. Look what's
Hold on,
happened.
are you suddenly
They're missing
claiming
theirs.
like a loss of memory here?
Nah, that never happens.
Well, I wasn't the mechanic. It wasn't my car. I was just a hired trigger. Hired.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened during World War II, man.
Yeah, that's
We,
the
we call
racing
them
driver excuses.
we call them trigger monkeys down here.
So yeah, look what happened to the other car, which
Yeah,
was
they
running the
Oh,
same
listen to
chassis.
that.
It lost its, and it ended up taped wing as well. So these
got theirs?
two cars both experienced the same kind of thing.
So I have to say that basically, I think this one is the race where I was also there as well. So I was driving that Porsche.
You were there.
Yeah, I was in the team with Tamar, Alex,
Which
Gary.
Porsche is that one?
The only Porsche that you're seeing in
Well,
the
Oh,
GT.
well,
there.
I've,
Gary's Porsche, right there.
this one.
Right in the front.
Got you. So that was a Tamar, Gary, yourself, and Alex, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, that's incredible. You did 24 hours at 15 seconds a piece.
No,
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's
17.
doing that.
17,
Mine were
18.
more like 30 seconds.
So what you've actually got here, and I didn't realize this until just now, is you've got the GT in finishing order 1, 2, 3, 4, and you've got LMP 2, 1, 2, and 3, and you've got LMP 1, and I don't really know what the order is.
It's from starting from your
Could
the
this be the
left hand
winning car?
side. So first, second, and third. Yeah.
So who is that? Is that Rockingham or have Rockingham?
That
not won it?
one should be John Granger.
No, this one's John Granger.
Yeah.
Striker Racing.
The blue and white one, the middle one.
That's the
That's a
Toyota.
John. No. I mean, that's not. So John Granger was driving the Audi over there. Was racing with the Fola.
Yes.
No.
No.
No. So you're saying it was this? This was.
Of course. I mean, the best looking car that was a John Granger and Fola. And
So
Dutch
this
people.
then this was Posilipo.
Yeah, it's another piece of.
And a year later, John Granger picked up this body shell, and they
Could be the case.
Yes,
but,
no, yeah, I'm pretty sure John Granger's striker team ran one of these. But if you're telling me that
I
was
think
John
that's
Granger's team, striker,
John. Maybe
that must be
John.
Posilipo.
Wait. I think John knows a bit more.
Himself, I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Well,
Because
we're getting
I
close
think
to
this was
time.
the last year that John Granger raced, because then the
Yes, it
following
was.
year
He wasn't there.
he wasn't there. So
this is what we've got at the end of the race. These are my analyses that I didn't think to do until the end of the race. But this is what we've got. We've got a 90-gram nominally car with a 63-gram running gear. So I take one away from the other to establish what the body weighs, or what the body weighs at the end. Bearing in mind that at the end, this is what it looks like.
You've got a few grams of rubber in there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But look what happened at the back.
Oh.
Jesus Louise.
Oh, it looks even better than at the beginning, man.
It does, doesn't it? This
Doesn't
was
look
all,
that bad.
this was all meant to fall off, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
It's very Picasso.
Isn't it just?
Yeah, to be fair, that's primarily from rear enders of other cars hitting it, probably.
Yeah. I mean,
probably. But it happens both ways. Sometimes it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So I think
just like to look at it. So you see the Disca Proton, so there's still 3 hours to go.
Yeah, still 3.5.
It's not the final thing. Yeah.
Not the final event. But look,
No.
let's look at the leader, 3,689 laps.
Wow.
And let's look at us at 3,097 laps. We're nearly 600 laps behind.
That's the front splitter, man.
It's the front splitter. So you've got, but look at this. You've also got 689 and 683.
Wow.
This was a beautiful race between the top two guys because Rockingham was leading for
Yeah.
most of the time, and then
Gap to first
Striker
position.
they come back.
So
I think
after
John
17
was racing with the Rockingham, right?
Yeah.
After 21 and a half hours, 20 and a half hours, there's 3 hours 22 remaining, and there's a gap of 6.
Yeah.
And then another gap of 65 to this car or 71 to this car. And then there's 15 laps behind them. There's another team.
So, okay, I also have to ask, who had the Red Bull concession?
Huh?
Who
The
had
Red
the Red
Bull
Bull
concession at the race.
Somebody's making bank.
Who was selling Red Bull? Who was there selling Red Bull? So we had,
I think it was just Dutch blood. So the two Dutch guys in that team, in the Striker racing team, they are top drivers. So basically, for the last part of the race, they just, I think they were doing a 3-hour stint, to catch up with the Rockingham.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, John.
It was a really good race. The Sebastian.
Yeah,
that was his name, Sebastian Van Altenen.
Share of the racing. Fair play to him. He brought it back, and we did have a. You'll see, the gap at the end it did extend. We had some more technical issues. Can't remember exactly what it was. But it's racing.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, none of the teams actually ran the whole 24-hour without having to do.
Actually, if we want to be precise,
I think that gap
the
was
next
like
two winners, the two GTs, the Silipo and Bitstop. They both basically ran faultlessly. I think they had to do a braid
in 18 and 19.
Yeah, very minimal. I think they're in the pits 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, it does tend to ebb and flow, and it ebbs and flows mostly around the pits, doesn't it? Because one team can be like 50, 60 laps up, and then suddenly they've got to change a chip or something, or change a motor, or do something significant, and then boom, the race is back on.
Yeah.
So
to win the race, you only have to average something like 8. So you can see the lap times, 14 seconds, quick laps. I think to win the race, you have to average 18 seconds, 17, 18 seconds, something like that. To win the race.
Yeah. If you divide the winner's total by 24 hours, your actual average is only in the 17, 18 second lap range. But you've got to maintain that for the solid 24. And of course, a 2-wheel change is about between 40 seconds and a minute just to change the 2 wheels and put the car back in the pit lane. That lap, when you go back to the race control and look at the lap you've just done with the pit stop in it, tends to be near a minute. And you
in that race, the Porsche.
I'm going to cut you guys off for just long enough to hit the stop button. As always, we will continue chatting, and for everybody else online, come and enjoy a live chat. And until then, bye.
Peace.
Bye.